Hey there guys, and welcome to the Paradox Podcast, a brand new series. Well, it is a series, to be honest, on my channel. I suppose you could call it a podcast as well. What this series is basically going to be is just rambling videos, really, trying to make them as uncut as possible. I'll try and not edit them at all, so sorry if I'm a bit rambly and, you occasionally hear me drink or whatever, just because this is going to be uncut and I've been wanting to do something like this for quite a while. Just do a podcast sort of format and just talk about Who. So as I'm recording this video, I am very close to 200 subscribers. Thank you so much for that. So this is almost a 200 subscriber special, starting this series, the Paradox Podcast. And in today's edition, we are going to be talking about how I got into the show, because I've never really spoken about this previously on the channel in detail. We're going to be talking about Series 4, the partnership between David Tennant and Catherine Tate, David's Doctor, Series 5, Matt Smith is the Doctor, and some merchandise that was out during that time as well. So you can sit back, relax, and enjoy this. So yeah, you may know, but I got into the show through Partners in Crime. That was my first ever episode I watched. Partners in Crime, Series 4, Episode 1. The first episode where it introduced Donna as the proper companion, and I remember the first time I saw this, I believe it was on BBC 3. I think it was about 2009 as well, maybe late 2008. And I saw it because, I just thought it sounded decent. I was like random, I was like 5 or maybe even not that 5, like maybe the end of 4. And I was thinking, stick that on, see what it's like, because I was intrigued by the title, I think. And the first scene I remember seeing, it's still planted in my head, is the scene where the nanny's getting levitated into the adipose ship and the Doctor and Donna are trying to convince her to come across. And I remember just seeing her face with a big blue beam behind her. I just remember that. That's my first ever scene of Doctor Who, I think. And yeah, from that moment on, I was pretty much hooked. So, after Partners in Crime, I don't remember much else of watching the episode other than that part. But from then on, it's been one of my favourite episodes ever. Then my next sort of proper experience of watching Who was the 2009 specials, and I will always love all of those stories. They're all really great actually, and I remember watching all of them, but the first one I remember watching, obviously, is the Christmas special, The Next Doctor, and that was just absolutely stunning. I remember I saw the Next Time trailer previously, or a trailer on BBC One, I think it was, and you saw the Cyber Queen woman walking in the snow with the sort of Victorian times and the Cybermen, who at that time I didn't know what they were, basically. I didn't know much about the show at all. I saw the trailer, saw the snow, I remember seeing her feet with her umbrella, and that's about it. That's all I remember seeing from that trailer. Then when the episode was broadcast, I remember we watched it. And yeah, I thought it was a really good story. Obviously, I wasn't really that critical, wasn't really paying attention that much, but I remember enjoying it, being glued to the screen, and it was a really nice experience, and I can still remember it. Then, of course, I watched The Planet of the Dead when that was broadcast. I really liked that one when I was 5, maybe even 6 then. I think it was 5. And, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was I was really intrigued by the sort of London bus in the desert. I thought it looked really good. And yeah, it turns out now I really like the episode as well. I think it's criminally underrated, and I may have to do an underrated video on it eventually once I get time to do it. But I remember watching that on broadcast, and it was just, when you see like TV when you're young or something, and you always remember or see moments. That's one of the moments I always remember. I always remember seeing the Doctor running through the sand, and that's just, I will always remember that, I think. And it was a really good story. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the DVD came out before Waters of Mars was broadcast, because the next thing I remember is going to this town, which is about probably, it's not far away from where I live, basically, and we drove past, decided to pop into W.H. Smith's, and went down the back, and I saw the Planet of the Dead DVD at the top, and I instantly wanted it. I got it, and then I must have watched it like 5 times that weekend. I was just so addicted to it, I guess. So I remember buying the DVD from W.H. Smith's. I still have it. It's been in my DVD collection videos. It's the exact same copy, obviously. And yeah, it's just a great story. Now, in the autumn special that year, we had the best episode ever, in my opinion, The Watchers of Mars. Now, I remember seeing the trailers on BBC One and stuff where Adelaide Brooke is holding up the gun to the Doctor's head and asking him for his credentials, and from then on I was like, this looks interesting, what could it be? And we eventually watched the story on broadcast, and I was just, after the episode finished, that night I had nightmares for like 2 weeks, I think, for the flood. They were just so creepy, I thought. The way they could just, one touch of water could just transform you into them. I was just so scared, and yeah, but that's what I love in TV. Something so scary that you even have nightmares at it, even if you're like middle-aged. But yeah, so I've always loved that episode, really. And I really liked it when it was broadcast. Next up, we had The End of Time. Now, I did see this on broadcast. I can't remember too much of it on broadcast, my first ever viewing of it. But yeah, I remember the regeneration scene. I remember thinking, I was so excited because I didn't really know what regeneration was. Didn't know what was going to happen. Even though I had seen regenerations previously, like on clips and stuff. But I didn't really know what was going to happen. And actually, the only part of that story I remember watching on broadcast is the bit at the start where the Doctor is in the circle in the snow with Ood, and his regeneration scene. So yeah, the regeneration scene I remember, and I really liked it. And then I was too young to get into leaks and stuff and news, so I didn't know about Matt Smith being the next Doctor. And I saw him already. I saw him when he regenerated, and already I thought I like him, even in my young self. I thought I really liked his character and how he was. I thought he's quite different to David Tennant in a way. Looked quite a bit younger, had longer hair slightly, and yeah, I thought from that moment on, that's probably why Matt Smith is my favourite Doctor, just because I've seen his whole reign, been with him all the way through. And yeah, I saw him, and the scene at the end where the camera's spinning and he says Geronimo, and then it sort of fades out. I remember that, like the broadcast. And yeah, that was a really great scene in my history of being a Who fan, I guess. Just seeing that, and yeah, I still remember it. And then I couldn't wait for Series 5. Before I move on to talking about Series 5, though, I want to talk about Series 4. Wow. What a series that is. In my opinion, I don't want to spoil anything, but it is the best series of New Who. It's just absolutely every single episode, even The Doctor's Daughter and Unicorn and the Wasp, which some people class as weaker episodes, I still really enjoy them, and I don't think there's a bad Series 4 episode at all. It's just the Doctor and Donna, the partnership is just amazing, and yeah, it's really great. Series 4, really love it. It is highly regarded in the fandom, but it gets overshadowed, I think, sometimes by Series 1. Series 1 is absolutely incredible. It is probably the second best, in my opinion, but that's for a different video. So yeah, next up we have the Doctor and Donna partnership. It's great, innit? Let's be honest. Catherine Tate as Donna is just phenomenal. The perfect choice to be the companion, and her and David Tennant work perfectly together. It's just they almost bounce off each other in the comedic styles and both the serious aspects to their characters. They just, as I say, bounce off each other pretty much. And you get to see how I remember seeing before Series 5 started. I'm pretty sure I watched quite a few repeated Series 4 episodes, and you know, I really enjoyed them back then and thought, hey, I like this show. Excuse me there, just had a little drink. But yeah, from that moment on, really, I was sort of a fan. Ever since my first few seconds of the show, knew I liked it. But it sort of rolled on from there, I continued to watch the show. And when Series 5 came out, I watched the first episode, and I remember all of it vividly. I thought it was a great start, really. The 11th Hour is highly regarded in the fandom. And I thought it was a great story. I still think it's amazing now. I remember vividly the scene where he's eating the fish fingers and custard, classic scene. Yeah, I still remember that. I was watching it on broadcast, and originally, I think I thought, in that scene especially, Matt Smith's a bit of a weird doctor. I'm not sure if I like him. I couldn't have been more wrong. Matt Smith is an incredible doctor and really great. But again, that's for a different video entirely. So we've been going for about 10 minutes now, I think. I want this to be quite a big video, though, just rambly. If it's not your style, then click off. But you can just sit back, relax, and casually listen to this. So yeah, I remember watching Series 5 on broadcast. I'm pretty sure I watched it all the way through on broadcast, but when you're so young, you sometimes don't remember all these, like everything. So, again, I don't remember watching every single episode on broadcast. I do remember watching the finale, I think, and the Smilers episode, The Beast Below, and the 11th Hour. That's really, and the Lodger. I remember watching that one as well. But yeah, that's really all I remember of Series 5 on broadcast. But I have been with him throughout his whole run, so I had been, so that's why I still like Matt today. Series 5 is an incredible series, as you'll know from my series review. It's just, you know, it's definitely Matt's best series. A lot of people say that, but it is true, in my opinion, of course. You look at Series 5 and you think, what's better than this? Really? I'm not sure if there's... You know, you could even say, I'm close to saying it's the second best series of all time in New Who. I'd say it's almost as good as Series 1, but sometimes I think this is as good as Series 1 or is better, but, you know, it's debatable what is my favourite, and hopefully in the future you'll see my top 10 New Who series, or however many are out by the time I film it. But yeah, so Series 5 is a great series. I really do like it. So Matt Smith, we're not really getting into, it's not how I got into the show now, really, but now we're talking about my first few years as a Who fan. Suddenly got very dark outside. But yeah, my first few years as a Who fan were really great. And another thing I wanted to talk about was the merchandise that was released during that sort of 2009, 10, 11 period. I remember getting lots, and I mean lots of figures back when like supermarkets used to stock them and stuff. I remember we went on the hunt for ages looking for a Centauran with a removable helmet. I don't know why I was addicted to that. I believe I found it in Morrison's eventually. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I did. But yeah, you know, great merchandise back then. I remember getting the Series 5 volume DVDs, still a bit young to like realise what was coming out and the news, stuff like that. So we used to always go to like the supermarket every couple months or so, and I used to hope that there was a new volume out, and there I saw a brand new DVD each time I went. Yeah, that's basically about it for Series 5. Just an incredible series, really great. In terms of more merchandise, I used to get the figures, of course, and I got this little thing. It's not remembered fondly from most fans. You probably don't even know what it is, but I'm pretty sure I still have it somewhere. I got this like TARDIS game. It was like you opened up the TARDIS and there was a massive photo of like David Tennant's Doctor in the Series 2 costume, and sort of Series 2, Series 3 villains-ish. And it was pretty bad, basically. Just an animated, like, an old-style Game Boy or whatever, and you had, like, a black and white animation of just characters and playing these random games. But I don't think I played it much, but yeah, I just remember that as an old piece of merchandise. Now, more into how I became a Whovian. My first steps into Classic Who were quite a while ago, but I don't think they were that close to me becoming a Who fan. I believe I got my first ever classic DVD in, I think it was about 2011, I'd say. About the time of by the end of Series 5-ish, Series 6. And I got I think the first ever DVD I actually bought was the Space Museum and the Chase box set, because I saw it in W.H. Smith's yet again. But the first ever classic story I watched was Destiny of the Daleks and the Fourth Doctor. for the Fourth Doctor. And yeah, I still like that story. It's not regarded fondly in the fandom, really, but that's my first ever classic story, and I will always like it for that. Moving on, I want to talk about the David Tennant's Doctor in depth here. Now, he is a phenomenal Doctor, phenomenal actor in general. He's just an inspiration, I'd say. He's such a great, Doctor. We're talking about his Doctor Who performances here. But yeah, his portrayal of the Doctor was so good. It was like you had he was so different to the other Doctors as well, because he was, you sat and you watched and you thought, he's really good. He was almost, for young people, he was almost somebody like, you were in awe of him. And yeah, he's so good in his stories as well. Comes very close in my Doctor's ranking to Matt Smith, and I'm sort of quite a bit of the time teetering on the edge of saying I can't split the two of them. But yeah, he's an incredible Doctor. And yeah, absolutely perfect as in the role. So yeah, especially in series 4, the relationship between David and Catherine was just great. You could see it really, their off-screen relationship was really portrayed on-screen incredibly well. And of course, I believe I saw a couple Christmas specials about this time as well, about 2010. I saw The Runaway Bride, which I still love. It's a really great story. I'm not sure I saw much of Series 1. I think the first time I saw Series 1 was I went into Asda, I think it was, about 2010, 2011-ish. And, sorry for remembering this, by the way, but it was the first issue of the DVD files. And they had this DVD which had Rose up to the Unquiet Dead, I wanted to say. Don't kill me if I'm wrong. It's either Rose in the End of the World or Rose up to the Unquiet Dead. But yeah, I saw that and I got it. I think it was like $1.99. They always do that with magazines like that. Cheapest price at first, and then it's like times 10 in price. But I got that and watched it, and Rose is a cracking story. Yeah, it's series 1 is perfect in general. It's really good. And I saw Rose. Rose automatically liked it. And yeah, it's just a great story. I saw Billy Piper and Christopher Eccleston's portrayal as the Doctor, and he was the first Doctor really I saw other than David Tennant. So yeah, he's just a great Doctor. So yeah, moving on, we have I wanted to talk a little bit about so I've sort of talked about a little bit how I got into the show, but now I want to talk about why I'm still into the show now, because it's been about 9 years, maybe even approaching 10 years, I'd say. May have to do a special video for that as well. So almost 10 years I've been a Who fan for. And to put that into perspective, it doesn't feel like 10 years at all. It feels, I can't really I can't really decide what it feels like. Don't know whether it feels longer or shorter than that. It feels weird, but I will forever be a Doctor Who fan. And yeah, it's been such an integral part of my life, I guess. It's such, almost I don't want to say cliche phrases here, so I'm going to try not to. But it's been really great, and I absolutely love it. And I'm so happy to be in such a great community with other Whovians. It's just a great show, and once I watched it, only a few people, like Whovians ourselves, would, when we sat down and watched that first episode, we were absolutely hooked. And yeah, I mean, I didn't even, when I was hooked, it wasn't even a full episode. It was like bloody 30 seconds of an episode, and I was already enthralled by it. And I remember seeing from Partners in Crime the adipose walking the streets with the police. Yeah, I remember that. There was a massive scene where the adipose was zoomed in, and I just saw it, and I immediately was so curious and hooked to the show. But yeah, so I've gotten to the show by then, and I might as well talk about Matt's full reign now. Series 6, I'm not 100% sure I watched all of it on broadcast. I think I watched about half of it, like Series 6 Part 1, because I keep forgetting that these series are split, because I have the full box sets. They were split. I remember seeing at least half Series 6. And yeah, it was really good. I didn't think it was as good as Series 5. It was like, even if my young person's brain back then, I thought, it's a good series, really good. But I wasn't really as addicted then as I was right at the start of my reign. But then of my fandom, I guess. But then Series 7 came along, and I was a little bit older by then. Series 7 Part 2. I don't think this is shocking, but I don't think I watched any of Series 7 Part 1 on broadcast. No. I did watch Asylum of the Daleks on broadcast, I'm pretty sure. But I don't think I watched much of Series 7 Part 1 at all. But when Series 7 Part 2 came along, I think I must have been about 8 or 9 by this point. And yeah, I watched it, and I got the DVD box sets from Tesco's, I believe it was. All these supermarkets here. Yeah. But I remember getting the Series 7 Part 1, Part 2 box sets. And I remember loving the artwork for the Series 7 Part 2 box set. I don't know why. It's just the Doctor in his purple coat, which is an incredible costume in my opinion, with an underrated companion, Clara, going down the Shard. And for me, Series 7 Part 2, I don't want to spoil it for the series review, so I'm not going to say too much. All I'm going to say is Series 7 Part 2 is the most underrated series in Doctor Who history. And that's what I'm going to say. It is great. Well, I don't know if it goes as far as to say it's great, but I think it's really good and does deserve more credit than it gets. I remember watching the Bells of St. John on broadcast. Watched quite a bit of them on broadcast, this second part of the series. I watched the Snowmen on broadcast as well, I think, and yeah, I enjoyed it, I think. I watched the Bells of St. John, and I was a little bit older now, so I was sort of, getting into the news, stuff like that, but not really fully yet. And I remember hearing the Matt and Karen, not Matt and Karen, Matt and the cast really talking about what's going to be in this series. And I remember them saying the villains were like spoonheads in the Bells of St. John, and it was all about the Wi-Fi. And spoonheads, I was so curious in my young mind. I was like, are they actually going to be spoons, or no? Of course not. But yeah, when the episode rolled around, I really enjoyed it, and I still do. I think it's underrated as well. I've been to a couple of the locations actually from that episode, and it was really great, really nostalgic for me, just looking at the locations and remembering watching that full episode. It just came through my head again. It was really great. We've been going about 22 minutes now, actually. So yeah, it's quite long, but hopefully you've enjoyed it so far. I remember the classic scenes where the Doctor's going up the Shard as well. That's just great. And my favourite scene out of that, strangely, is when he's in the cafe with Clara, and she's on the laptop, or he's on the laptop actually, and they're on the balcony, and they just like looking at stuff. And you can see the Shard, the Gherkin in the background. It's just really great to see London, really. And yeah, I love that scene already. I love that scene till now, and it's such a great story actually. Now, I love all of Series 7 Part 2. Right? The Rings of Akaten is an absolutely, please don't kill me, it's an absolutely beautiful story. I don't care what anybody says. Of course, in 5-10 years' time, I may think it's absolutely horrible, but now I think it's absolutely beautiful and such a stunning story. It's controversial, this, I know, but one of my favourite scenes ever, as I think I've commented on previously on the channel, is when the Doctor's having his speech with the god. And yeah, that's just an incredible speech/scene. Rings of Akaten's a really good story. Other highlights for me of Series 7 Part 2 with the Crimson Horror. That's a great story. And yeah, other stuff like that is just really great. And now on to Matt's regeneration. No, actually, we're going to go to the 50th anniversary special first, because I want to wrap this up shortly. The 50th anniversary special, just great. I remember watching it on broadcast. Unfortunately, I didn't go to the cinema to see it, which is one of my biggest regrets as a Who fan in my history. I was really annoyed at that, because they didn't really show it in cinemas near me, so I was a bit pissed off. But yeah, I watched it, and it was just great, and I still love it. The War Doctor, Matt, and David just work perfectly together, the three of them, and it's a really great story. Like, it's really good. And yeah, so we're going to go into the end of Matt's era and his regeneration. Now, I don't remember too much of Generation's story. I did watch it on broadcast, but I haven't really watched it that much since. So I remember his Generation scene though, and I was really curious about it because it's a great regeneration scene, probably the best in history. And yeah, it's the way. What I was curious about is the way he quickly, suddenly, it was so sudden. He changed into Capaldi. He sort of leant back, and then suddenly Capaldi was in your face. And yeah, Capaldi's first scene's great about the kidneys and stuff. That's really good. I remember seeing the announcement of the 12th Doctor on BBC One. I was eagerly awaiting, and then they revealed it was Capaldi, and what a great decision that was, by the way. But I think I'm going to stop it there. Sort of me getting into who. That's how I got into the show, really. Just, I saw it one day by chance. Imagine if I hadn't seen it then, I probably would have never got into the show, and I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So, yeah, I've got a lot to thank about the Partners in Crime. But yeah, so I really hope you have enjoyed this. It's sort of almost a thank you to you guys for the support of my channel, and the Paradox podcast is going to continue, hopefully. I've wanted to do something like this for ages now, as long as I can remember, sort of a podcast format. I really hope you have enjoyed it. So yeah, that's how I got into the show. It's really been fun recording this for you guys. Hopefully soon I'll hit 200 subs, and it's been a phenomenal journey so far, guys. 200 subscribers is going to be incredible. So yeah, guys, that's about it for today's edition of the Paradox podcast. I really hope you have enjoyed it. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. It's been really fun to record. So yeah, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, don't forget to support it with a like. Subscribe below if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for the support. See you next time.